All right, for this week's 7.1 graded assignment, the assignment was to look at the wish list from all of the classmates and take a provided budget of $65,000 that I was provided and be able to budget for 20 different programs, including boys basketball, boys tennis, cheerleading, softball, cross country, marching band, girls swimming, girls soccer, girls volleyball, boys soccer, baseball, field hockey, girls tennis, boys volleyball, football, wrestling, track, girls basketball, girls lacrosse, and boys golf. So looking at those 20 programs, if you add everything up on everybody's wish list, it was roughly 149,000 that the 20 sports totaled to if everything was budgeted for. Unfortunately, I was provided a budget of $65,000, so that's looking at cutting back roughly $84,000 in the budget. So, how I went about this budget process is the first thing that I looked at is ensuring that I could still budget for all programs to continue to operate, so no student athletes were being affected negatively by eliminating any program or sport. Um, the next way I prioritized these budget items were some of the items on the wish list were larger items that weren't necessary for the sport, but more of a luxurious item that the coach would like or would be more, it would help the sport be more effective or more convenient if that item was purchased. However, it wasn't necessary in order for the program or sport to operate. So I went through all 20 sports and eliminated those luxurious items that could be eliminated. And then from there, I looked at kind of some overall themes that could be put into a different budget. So, for example, like water bottles, athletic tape, things like that, that could come out of an athletic training budget versus a sport specific budget. And then I also looked at the same sport that had both a men's team and a women's team and looked at any shared equipment that could be utilized. Some of the larger pieces of equipment I, for this fiscal year, eliminated, assuming that the condition for that piece of equipment was still in good condition. However, it is important to note as I go through this some of the higher expensive purchases that will need to be made that athletic directors have to be aware of when those pieces of equipment are purchased, and then kind of understanding or knowing the longevity of those pieces of equipment so they can project when they will need to be purchased again to start planning and budgeting for $15,000 pieces of equipment. So looking at boys basketball here, some things that were eliminated were, like duffel bags and the shooting system. Throughout, you'll see a theme that I have eliminated for this fiscal year with only given $65,000. Any practice uniforms or training uniforms will just be reused from the previous year. However, I did keep new uniforms on all of the sport teams, so all sport teams will get new uniforms, and that's one thing or one way to continue to engage your student athletes and excite them, is to have something new for them each year. So looking at boys tennis, so some items here that the student could be responsible for purchasing would be like a racket backpack if they wanted a hat or a visor, and things that were eliminated like a backboard, ball machine. These pieces of equipment are nice, however, if you can't afford them, they're not necessary for the sport to operate. Looking at cheerleading, the tumbling mats, $13,000 for tumbling mats, so it's really important to understand that that's going to cost a lot when you have to turn over those mats. However, I assumed the cheerleading mats from the previous year are still in good use for this fiscal year. Once again, training and practice uniforms were eliminated there for cheerleading. Looking at softball, some of the unnecessary items that were eliminated were the transport cart, pitching machine, and then relying on the students to purchase their belts and their socks, purchases that aren't too expensive that the students could afford to continue to participate in that sport. Looking at cross country, the biggest expenses here for cross country were the uniforms. Like I said, I budgeted for each sport to get new uniforms for this fiscal year. The training uniforms were eliminated, and looking at the carry bags, backpacks, duffel bags, students can provide their own bag at the high school level if they would like. However, the school is not going to add that additional cost into the budget. Looking at marching band, the most expensive thing that was eliminated here were the drill master shoes. It's important that they marching band shoes are specific. However, these shoes could be rented um, from local businesses. So if you can't afford that in your budget, they can still be rented or purchased from responsible for the student to purchase. Looking at girls swimming, mainly what was eliminated here were items that aren't necessarily needed, just are nice for the training of the sport. So the snorkel, the paddles, pool buoys were eliminated there. Looking at girls soccer, the goals were eliminated, assuming that the goals were still in good use from previous years. Once again, the huddle packages technology that does the analyzing that has been eliminated at the high school level with such a small budget. And then any extra uniforms, training uniforms, were eliminated, and asking students to purchase their own knee pads. Looking at boys soccer, the items that were eliminated were equipment like corner flags, the goals, goalie nets that could be utilized year from year, and any like mouth guards, headgear, helmets. Those pieces of equipment I looked at that that piece of equipment is not going to be shared year to year, student to student, because of the contact it has with other students. So those pieces of equipment, I believe students are responsible for purchasing. Looking at baseball, the catchers, if they are coming up to the high school level, catchers are going to already have their catcher mitt. It's already going to be broken into. It's going to fit their hand. So I don't believe the school would be responsible in purchasing that catcher's mitt. And along with helmets, students, just due to sanitary safety and different size of heads, it's just important that the students purchase their own helmet that fits their head. Looking at field hockey, things that were eliminated here, the video programming, the rebounder training tool, and spot markers, I believe, are tools that the coach can reenact in place of those pieces of equipment. Girls tennis, so a ball machine, has been eliminated, so the coach can feed tennis balls to the players. Same thing with the backpack. Students can purchase the backpack if they feel is necessary, and then if they would like additional overgrip for their tennis racket. Looking at boys volleyball, a lot of the equipment not necessary for the sport to continue to operate, especially being a new sport at the high school level. So a lot of the equipment here was eliminated just for training purposes. Looking at football, the uniforms stayed in place along with the helmets. Any additional detailing of the helmets were eliminated. The cost for officials is going to come out of a different budget line, and any of the coaching or training uniforms were eliminated as well. Looking at wrestling, this is another large purchase for the mats and the wall padding. So I assume that those pieces of equipment were still in good use from previous years, and just knowing when those large items were purchased and when they will be up for repurchasing again to start budgeting for those. Looking at track, what was a lot of equipment wasn't eliminated here for track, but the starting blocks here, they can be used year after year. A lot of this, once the javelins are purchased and the batons, along with the hurdles, those can be reused year after year. And girls basketball, practice uniforms were removed along with any shooting system and the slip knot, just things that aren't necessary that can be eliminated to save money. Looking at girls lacrosse, a lot of this the students can be responsible for purchasing, so a throat guard, lacrosse goggles, lacrosse gloves, all of those are pieces of equipment that aren't necessary for the sport, but can be acceptable if the students would like to purchase them on their own. And then looking at boys golf, golf balls with logos, not necessary at the high school level, just velocity golf balls would be enough for that. You're adding that extra cost when adding that logo. And then a cart rental, if you can't afford that cart rental, the coach just has to accommodate and find a way to organize so that he or she can be with the entire team during practice and continue to coach without being in that golf cart. And then same thing going to backpacks and bags. Same thing with golf bags. The student can be responsible for providing their own golf bag at that high school level. So overall, after eliminating those costs, it brought the overall total from $149,000 to down to $64,716.65. Just meeting right under at about $284, right under budget of the $65,000 budget that I was given. So this is one way that you can go about prioritizing and eliminating other items. Another way that you could do it would be looking at the quantity and going, maybe not purchasing so many each year and minimizing the quantity, but not eliminating as many items. So that would be another way that you could budget if certain items needed to be replaced. You could just only replace the number that needed to be replaced for that year.